With the Monday Report Town session, we're getting into the second part of this discussion. Now we bring in Mr. Simon Kimutai, the chairperson, Matatu Owners Association. He's joining us live from Kericho. Thank you so much for making time for us, Mr. Kimutai. So, based on your analysis, how much revenue has the Matatu industry lost so far?
Thank you very much, Ambija. It's a pleasure to be on TV again. Public transport operators have been hit so hard in terms of revenue collections because one, there was the advice to stay home. The second was there was curfew. Then there was also the reduction of the capacity by 50%. Public transport has been losing not less than 200 million shillings a day, which is close to 60% of total revenues. So it's been hit so hard, and now we are waiting to see what happens next.
All right, so the government says that all PSVs will now have to seek certification in order to operate. Are you seized of this matter, first of all, and is the approach satisfactory for the Matatu owners?
Well, you know, we talk of certification. We don't know whether certification is testing, and we don't know whether it's what kind of subjection that would make us be able to operate. But there are things that probably would have been better than that. You know, when the crew start operating, they could have been empowered to have knowledge on how to prevent this virus from spreading. The normal advice is what they've actually been watching in media, and I believe because of them being so vulnerable, because they are the ones who are in the vehicle all the time, they need to have that knowledge on how to deal with such cases of not spreading the virus. So for now, the certification becomes, if it is an issue of testing, one question that I would pose: if you are tested and you're negative, does it mean that you will not be able to have the virus? Because you can have the virus the next day and you can easily spread because you've not been empowered to have the knowledge on how to behave, especially in handling passengers. So there are several questions. And the other question is in certification, if it is testing, since we have actually been hit so hard, the business has it's been loss-making. And I'm sure right now, even if you told a public transport operator to produce 5,000 shillings, they wouldn't be able to do that because their revenues have completely dwindled, and there has not been any profit making. In fact, most of those who now the lockdown, the opening will assist, have had their vehicles parked since the time there was lockdown.
So, Mr. Kimutai, there are two aspects to it, the certification aspect. There's one for the PSV vehicle itself, having complied to the MOH guidelines, and then there is another one for the crew, that is the driver and the tout. Do you suggest then that all of them have to be tested first?
Now, you know what happens is that we have not been given a description on certification. So it's only the word certification. So we are guessing if it is certification, it could be testing, and probably you know, compliance by probably fumigating the vehicles and ensuring that they are sanitizers for passengers to use who are going to use the service. And you know very well that some of this might be very difficult to attain because already the business is loss-making, and all this requires revenues to be able to get to a position where you can be able to give the service. So I think the certification bit has got to be, they've got to elaborate on that. They've got to give us better you know, description to that.
So as you figure out what exactly the government meant by that, are we likely to see an increase in fares? Because we know now that 14-seater matatus are supposed to carry a maximum of 8 people, 25-seater matatus are supposed to carry a maximum of 15 people, all other PSVs are supposed to carry 60% capacity. Are we likely to see an increase in fare?
Well, you know, in any business doing, one has got to cost account and see whether it's viable to do the business. I wouldn't want to bring my vehicle on the road and, by the end of the day, the next day I'll be looking for money to fuel. And I think there are better ways where this can be approached, or a remedy can be provided, as opposed to having to pass this cost to the passenger. We've had of the stimulus, and we've had of ways of bringing back the economy. In other jurisdictions and countries which are advanced, in normal circumstances, public transport is normally given subsidies, because for it to be reliable and affordable for people to transact business, public transport is a great facilitator of economic activities. So to pass the cost to the passenger might reduce movement. And if it is opening up an economy, it requires the government to have to step in and assist public transport operators to realize what they're supposed to be doing by giving service to the people. And without movement, definitely the economy can't lift its head up. So I believe that that would be the last resort of after cost accounting of hiking fares. Though you see, already we've lost 50% of revenues due to reduction of passengers by 50%. So the other thing is that the times of curfew. When they say it's 9 o'clock, a driver has got to get home before 9. So he will close his work maybe at 7:30. So I think there should be other areas of really thinking, if it's an issue of opening the economy, then we've got to extend times, like even if it's curfew time, it's got to be extended to accommodate, the business. Otherwise, the business will come to a collapse. Any business that loses 200 million shillings a day is enormous. I mean, it's not sustainable. So it will be a matter of time, and these vehicles will not be able to move anymore, because you can't maintain them to the standards. You cannot be able to, to put it in a way that it gives reliable services. Yes.
So are you as an industry then considering a complete remodeling to ensure that the vehicles are carrying at 60% of their capacity by essentially rebuilding the matatus? Because COVID-19 is here to stay. 14-seater matatus will never be 14-seater matatus. They'll always just be 8-seater matatus because of COVID-19.
That now becomes a challenge. Then it's not only reconfiguring. There's got to be a lot of readjustments in terms of even fare paying. Because initially, we thought it could have been temporary, but somehow it's unfortunate that COVID-19 is here to stay with us. So, and nobody would want to go into a business and make losses. Nobody has, enough money to go there and, be a charity. So I think what needs to happen is there must be a proper conversation, and if there is any way the government can step in. Government is supposed to be facilitator of, economic activities. And as I had mentioned earlier on, in other jurisdictions, you'll find that governments do provide subsidies to public transport. But unfortunately, here it's left to private sector. That's why you see a lot of misbehaving, because everybody wants to run and get the cash that probably would make meaningful gain to them. But unfortunately, now that this COVID has come, then, and it is here to stay with us, it appears that we have to do a lot of readjustments. Yes, sure, the bodybuilders will have to, ensure that it becomes that, if this thing is to stay with us forever. But everything of this nature will come with a cost, because if your revenues are cut by 50%, what happens? You need to adjust it to get back to where you are, so that you can be able to maintain yourself and sustain yourself in the business.
So, Kimutai, this is really a rock and a hard place because we're looking at a sector where the capacity that they can hold has been reduced. The purchasing power of the individuals who are supposed to travel has also been reduced. Therefore, the hiking of the fares may not be such a good idea because they'll just decide to retract. So if we're talking about the economies of scale, should we then just do away with the 14-seater matatus then?
Well, this depends on demand. There are areas where you would have to wait for the whole day to get a ride to get to a destination you wanted to get to. And 14-seater matatus are known for intercity or intertown. Nyeri, Nairobi, Murang'a, Nairobi, Nakuru, Nairobi, and other areas. And for us to change it, it will have to take a lot of time and big investments at the same time. And when you look at it at the same time, the investment, for instance, if you have to invest in a 33-seater to carry maybe about 15 passengers, it will still result in the same because, one unit of minibus costs 5 million. And if it cannot even repay, money borrowed from financial institutions, then what happens? The industry will collapse. So what needs to happen is that people need to get serious, especially those in positions, to see how do we readjust, because right now it's all about public transport is purely business handled by a private sector. While, now that there is change and, the capacity is not what it was, then we should all ask ourselves, what needs to happen?
Yeah.
If it is right now, it's very difficult for us to adjust fares because people don't have money. People have lost their jobs. And most people who use, over 90% of Kenyans use public transport. And when you see those employed are not a big number. Those whom we rely on in doing business of public transport in Kenya are those people who are hustling, who are moving to do small businesses from one place to the other. So there must be a lot of, I wish, when we pay taxes, like even the road maintenance levy,
yeah,
what they should do is try and readjust, probably make fuel used by public transport be zero-rated in taxes. And, parking fees should be completely removed. Things like, paying for licenses should be removed.
Okay.
To make it easy for people to travel.
And that's the point that Atieko Lawrence here on Twitter is still belaboring. He says, what measures will Matatu Association put in place to make sure that fare is not hiked by Matatu owners? And how will they regulate this as an association, considering that fuel prices have gone down?
Fuel is just a small fraction of, cost in public transport. A vehicle could consume maybe 30 to 40 liters a day. And if we've had 10 shillings reduction, that makes 300 to 400 shillings. The bigger part is the investment of, of this particular case. And it's very difficult now to, tell people this should not happen. And yet they have costed and seen that they are not making any money and they are making losses. And the essence of going into business is to at least get revenues, get returns to your investments. And, right now, as I've kept saying, I wouldn't want to see a scenario where we are having to make passengers pay for COVID's, effects. That's why I've talked of subsidies. I've talked of reduction of zero rating on fuel used by Matatu, taxes, don't paying for licenses, and other things that probably could be related that can make the costs come down. It's an issue of cost. And in business doing, you cost account to be able to know that you're getting your margins. But at times when you are not able to get your margins, so it becomes a matter of time, and the business will collapse, and you'll not have any public transport operation in Kenya.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Kipletin Manuela on Twitter is wondering, I challenge Simon Kimutai to consult those in leadership position if he's serious about helping Kenyans. Kenyans can't afford food. How will they afford hiked fares?
Well, I think Kipletin should know that my words are very clear. I was just indicating that business doing, you do cost accounting, and any costs that come in always should be passed to consumers. But I've tried to avoid that by saying we need the government to act on some areas. You know, in fuel, the government takes close to 50%, if not more, of cost of fuel. There is licensing. There is parking by county governments. If all these were reduced, this is a cost. This is a benefit to public transport users. That is when fares will be held down. If today my vehicle could be consuming 100 shillings to give you a ride, and you pay me 50, then it means I've got to look for another 50 to top up. So it must make sense to do the business. So for me, it's talking of subsidies in different forms, probably zero rating on the taxes and other costs that probably can be adjusted by the government.
Yeah.
For now, they've advised me to talk to those in leadership. I'm sure probably if they are listening, they should know that the industry is really burning, and within no time, if it goes on like this, we will not have public transport, and if we have, it will be unaffordable.
All right. So we have seen instances where PSVs are sort of going back to normal right now as we stand. They're just going against the Ministry of Health guidelines. What are you doing as an association to ensure then that they toe the line? Because there are some people on Twitter who are accusing them to be super spreaders.
Well, we've not had cases of spread we cannot pinpoint, but I'm in agreement. We have to, all play parts. It is said it is personal responsibility. A passenger should not allow himself to be excess. The crew are always two people in a vehicle, and we should not allow them to bully us. In every society we have those rogues who tend to do things that are not right. Yeah, even in every household, you'll find somebody who does not do things right. But that does not give license to condemn the whole industry. What I'm just trying to say here is that we should all play team. We should all do what is required. We take it as a responsibility. We make sure that if a vehicle is supposed to be having 7 passengers, why should I be the 8th and blame the conductor? We have to learn to say no. We cannot be bullied. We have to learn to say no. We cannot be made to be excess passengers. Yeah. So I think it's everybody's part to now realize that COVID is real and it's a matter of death. So it's a very unfortunate that there are those who have come into to go back to old ways of behaving and asking themselves question whether there is anybody who knows a person who has had COVID, or a person who knows that there's had COVID. So yeah. I think what is important here is for all of us to play part and take up the responsibility.
And that is almost related to what one George Oguma is asking, the man from Andingo Panga. He's saying, ask Mutai to ensure that the extra seats in the PSV are removed and kept in the store. I am a victim of matatus here in Kisumu Busia Road, where they carry more than expected passengers, and you're not even allowed to raise an alarm, and the police are also working with them.
At times, I wonder why passengers allow themselves to be captives of 2 people. We have a vehicle at the moment carrying 8 men or women or Kenyans. Okay, even if it was fist fighting, they would outdo them. So why should they allow themselves to be bullied? But anyway, he asked a valid question, why can't the seats be removed? Right now, the design initially was that a seat was, for a minibus, it's 1 seat that was meant for 2 people to sit on. And right now, the costs involved in trying to configure the buses is quite expensive. We wouldn't want to get to a scenario where we will be able to pass the cost. So I think what will happen is that as vehicles are rolled out of manufacturing line now, if it is now certain that it will be carrying certain number of passengers and it will never change, is when they can be adjusted. I'm sure. I mean, right now people believe that probably we'll go back to our normal, our old normal, not this new normal. So I believe that all this would be put in place. But please, as passengers, play a role. Don't make sure that you make sure you don't accept to sit in an area where you compromise your social distance. I believe if all of us behave that way, we would not be spreading the virus.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Simon Kimutai, Chairman, Matatu Owners Association, speaking to us live from Kericho on the way forward. I'm sure we'll talk again to find out what happens next. Santeni Sana. And thank you so much for watching as well. This has been the Monday Report, and the Town Hall session is just ending right now at exactly 11. I know you have other programs that you want to watch. My name is Trevor Mbija. Always a pleasure having you with us. On behalf of the entire team and Yulan Zale, who's been a sign language interpreter, we say thank you for watching. Bye for now and good night.